This historic day, and I want to talk to you about Barron Trump because there are already articles that he was the one that stole the show.
Barron Trump was the quietest kid in the room, but also the most watched. No yearbook photos, no school lunch, a fake name in the system. And now a classmate has finally spoken out. What they revealed is shocking. What can you tell us about Barron? From your point of view, well, he's very smart. He's a good student and all that. Encrypted devices, unspoken rules, strange habits, and rare moments where Barron showed who he really was. From secret soccer games to a $50,000 Rolex, this isn't the bear you thought you knew. Why was he kept so hidden, and what did his classmate finally decide the world needed to hear? Let's discover behind the gates. Barron's life inside Oxbridge Academy. He was there, but not really. He walked the same halls, sat in the same classrooms, maybe even stood just few feet away from you at the vending machine. And yet many students at Oxbridge Academy say that going to high school with Barron Trump felt more like going to school near him than with him. His name didn't appear in the school database. He never posed for yearbook photos. He never even ate lunch. He was the son of a president, but in the eyes of his classmates, he was a ghost in a $30,000 a year fortress. Who was Barron Trump really? Why was he so hidden? And what did his classmate finally reveal that shocked everyone in 2017, just as his father took office as the 45th President of the United States? Barron Trump began attending Oxbridge Academy in West Palm Beach, Florida. While most 11th graders were worrying about acne, chemistry homework, or who they'd sit with at lunch, Barron entered a school known for being both intellectually rigorous and intensely private. Oxbridge is not your average prep school. It was founded by a billionaire, staffed by hand-picked faculty, and designed to cater to the elite. The classrooms are small. The student-teacher ratio is carefully maintained. The technology is state-of-the-art, and discretion is the unspoken rule. It was the kind of place where children of tech CEOs, hedge fund managers, and royalty could study in peace, and where someone like Barron could theoretically disappear. But what happens when someone who's meant to disappear is suddenly talked about by someone who saw everything and disappear? He did. From the very beginning, Barron's life at Oxbridge was surrounded by layers of security that no other student had to deal with. Every day, his arrival and departure were coordinated with the Secret Service. Agents patrolled the campus discreetly, blending into the background but always watching. While other students might have ridden the school bus or gotten dropped off by parent, Barron's commute involved tinted SUVs and silent hand signals. You couldn't miss the presence of authority around him, but ironically, that very presence made him feel even more distant. Strangely enough, Barron Trump's name wasn't even in the school system, at least not in a way that regular students or even some staff could access. According to the student who recently came forward, his enrollment was masked under a pseudonym. His real name never appeared on classroom rosters or public-facing systems. Teachers and administrators were reportedly instructed to refer to him using only his alias outside of formal documents. Why go to such lengths? To prevent cyber threats. Any hacker trying to breach school databases to track Barron's schedule would be chasing a digital ghost. That's how seriously his safety and privacy were taken. Could this elaborate secrecy be part of the story his classmate has now risked everything to share? And it worked. Many of Barron's classmates knew who he was. Of course, you can't exactly ignore a 69 teenager whose father is the most polarizing political figure of the century, but knowing of him wasn't the same as knowing him. And that's where the mystery deepens. He never appeared in group photos. He was always the one just outside the frame or absent altogether. Class pictures, yearbooks, sports team snapshots, none of them featured him. Even on social media, students were reportedly asked not to post photos of him, either directly or incidentally. We all kind of got used to it. Said one peer, you knew not to tag him. You knew not to mention him online. It wasn't just a rule, it was understood, and in that silence a kind of myth formed. Students whispered about where he went after school, whether he had a different lunch schedule, or if he was even real at all. But he was real, extremely real and hard to miss. Especially at 69, Barron was one of the tallest. Students at Oxbridge easily standing, out in any hallway or classroom, and yet, his presence felt intentionally muted. He moved with caution, always surrounded, but somehow isolated, unlike most. Students who thrive on attention or social validation, Barron never sought. Either he skipped dances, never went to pep rallies, avoided homecoming. He rarely appeared at football games, even. Though his size would have made him a natural fit on the field, he was in our world but not really part of it. One student said it was like he was playing a completely different game, and that was the point. But now, years later, that silence is finally cracking, and the person who saw it all from the inside is ready to talk with the rumored classmate revealed, and why it's shocking. After years of total silence surrounding Barron Trump's mysterious high school life, a former classmate has just come forward with details that no one, not even the media, had ever reported. From code names to encrypted devices, secret routines to strain emotional walls, their first-hand memories offer the clearest picture we've ever had of what it was like to be near Barron. Who is this anonymous classmate, and what finally pushed them to break their silence, now based on interviews and anonymous tips making their way into public forums? The source is believed to have been in at least 2 classes with Barron during their time at Oxbridge Academy. What makes this especially credible is the level of detail they've shared, information that would be difficult if not impossible to fake. According to them, they waited until graduation to speak out, partly out of respect for Barron's privacy and partly out of fear. Now that school is over and the security protocols around Barron's daily schedule have relaxed, the classmate has decided to reveal what it was really like to share a school with him. But why now, and why speak at all? They say it's not about fame, it's about curiosity, closure, and the feeling that people think they know him, but they don't. Is this the real Barron Trump we're finally hearing about? What stood out most to the classmate wasn't Barron's last name or even his security detail. It was his energy. He wasn't just the president's son. They said he was something completely different. I've never met anyone like him. It wasn't said with awe or mockery, but with genuine confusion. The student recalled moments where Barron felt almost too composed for a teenager, too calm under constant surveillance, and too withdrawn in a way that didn't feel awkward but deliberate. This wasn't someone trying to fit in or stand out. It was someone deliberately floating just out of reach. According to this classmate, many students didn't even know who Barron really was until months after school began. Despite his height and facial recognition from the news, Barron had been registered at the school under a different name, not just in the school's internal database, but even among peers. Students were told indirectly that the tall kid was part of a private family and not to ask questions. He never corrected anyone. It was weird, the classmate said. We had no idea who he was until someone accidentally let it slip. I thought he was maybe some foreign dignitary's kid. I didn't think you know Trump's kid. One of the most consistent patterns in Barron's school behavior was his total refusal to eat on campus. He never brought food, never accepted food, never ate anything from the cafeteria. The students said he'd sit there, kind of listen, maybe talk, but he'd never eat. While some students thought it was a diet or even an eating disorder, the classmate offered a different theory. Security. There was always the risk of food tampering, the possibility of something as simple as a sandwich becoming a vector for a threat. It might sound paranoid, but for a presidential family, it's protocol. He probably wasn't even allowed to accept gum. They added the social rules around Barron were equally strange. The classmate described what they called an unspoken rule among students, not to talk to him unless he talked to you first. No one told us that directly. It was just understood, like he'd be in the room and everyone would just pretend he wasn't there unless he made the first move. And sometimes he did, but most of the time he kept to himself. He wasn't rude, the classmate said. He was just watching, like he was always 3 moves Ahead of the conversation, could this quiet observation be the behavior of someone trained from a young age to assess threats, calculate responses, and guard everything, even their words? One moment that still sticks out in the classmate's memory came during a quiet group project. Someone made a joke about the school's new surveillance cameras, and Barron, without looking up dryly, said, "I know more about surveillance than our teachers." Everyone laughed, but there was a brief silence afterward, because no one was quite sure if he was kidding. It was one of those things where you laugh first and then realize you might be laughing at something serious. There were even stranger stories, ones that weren't just about behavior but about tech. According to the classmate, Barron didn't use the regular school laptops or tablets. He had his own device, something that looked like a hybrid between a tablet and a secure military laptop. You could tell it wasn't normal. They said the logo was covered and he never left it unattended ever. The theory that it was an encrypted device issued by the Secret Service, something capable of secure communication but disguised to blend in. It was like he was half student, half agent. They added when it came to major school events, prom, pep rallies, graduation rehearsals. Barron was notably absent. He didn't attend rehearsals for graduation. He didn't show up to any school dances. The only time he appeared for a major event was the actual graduation ceremony itself, where he arrived quietly and left just as quickly, flanked by agents. It felt like he wasn't graduating with us, he was just stepping through the event, the classmate said. Emotionally, Barron remained mostly unreadable. He never shared personal stories, never mentioned holidays, vacations, or family updates. One classmate referred to him as a walking blank slate, but every now and then that slate cracked. The classmate recalled one rare moment in the middle of a conversation about last names where Barron said, "I just wish people could talk to me without thinking of him." No clarification, just him. Everyone knew he meant Donald. That was the closest I ever saw him come to frustration. The classmate said, despite all of this, despite the emotional walls, the silence, the rules, students still noticed him, respected him, maybe even liked him. Quietly, the classmate said, we were in awe of him but also didn't know how to include him. You didn't want to break the rules around him, even if you didn't know what those rules were. But what truly stood out were the tiny human details Barron would occasionally offer to help a struggling peer with notes. He once complimented a classmate's presentation with a dry, perfect one-liner. He was known to give a quick nod when someone said something clever. In class, it was like he didn't want to be part of the crowd, but he didn't want to be against us either. The student said, could these quiet, subtle interactions be the moments his classmate now feels compelled to share, simply because no one else ever saw them? In the end, this account doesn't paint Barron Trump as cold or arrogant or sheltered. It paints him as deeply controlled, deeply observant, and, as the classmate put it, completely unique. Whatever he was going through, whatever rules he had to live under, he seemed to handle it with a kind of maturity that most teenagers don't even know exists. What came next? Barron Trump. After high school in the fall of 2024, Barron enrolled at New York University's Stern School of Business. That alone wouldn't be headline-worthy. Except for one thing, Barron Trump is no longer just the quiet kid in the corner. He's re-emerging, and what we're seeing now is not the high school ghost of Oxbridge Academy, but a young adult carefully and quietly building a life that no one predicted. According to sources close to the family, Barron's decision to attend NYU wasn't made on a whim. The 18-year-old arrived for his first day of college today with a backpack slung over his shoulder, flanked by Secret Service agents. It was strategic. NYU offered exactly what he needed: a rigorous academic environment, a deeply urban setting with built-in anonymity and proximity to the Trump family's base of operations at Trump Tower. During breaks and weekends, Barron reportedly returns to the tower, avoiding dorm life and instead living under the same level of private security he's had for most of his life. NYU isn't just about business education. It's also about managing exposure navigating public space in a city known for both opportunity and obsession. So, why didn't he choose Wharton like his father? That's the question many are asking. The answer may say more than he ever will out loud. Avoiding Wharton, the business school at the University of Pennsylvania where Donald Trump studied, could be a signal that Barron is stepping away from legacy and toward independence. While Ivanka and Don Jr. embraced the Trump name early, Barron has always kept a calculated distance from it, choosing NYU instead of a legacy institution may be Barron's way of creating space, professional, psychological, and social, between himself and the identity the world has always assigned him. Is this the first step in redefining who Barron Trump actually is? One of the most striking developments since his enrollment is the way classmates now describe him. The mystery hasn't disappeared, it's just taken on a different tone. Students describe him as polite, serious, incredibly composed, and more than once charming but quiet. He's not withdrawn like he was in high school. He participates more, asks questions, class, and even attends the occasional group event, but he still maintains a powerful sense of detachment. One student said, he talks to people now, he shows up, but there's still something closed off. It's like you're watching someone who always knows. The cameras are still rolling, and yet something unexpected is happening. Barron is reportedly quite popular, especially among female classmates, not in a celebrity crush sort of way, but in a curious, intrigued, almost protective way. He's not loud, he's not flashy, but he has a presence. People are drawn to it even if they don't fully understand it. He's been seen attending private tech panels hosted by professors and alumni, quietly sitting in on advanced discussions related to artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data privacy. Some believe he's networking under the radar, discussing projects and internships without ever advertising it publicly. And then there's the Rolex. In March of 2025, Barron was spotted returning to Trump Tower with Melania. He wore a Rolex Daytona, a watch that retails at over $50,000. It wasn't the price that caught people's attention, it was the change. Until now, Barron had kept his public appearances minimal, modest, controlled. But this was different. The watch, the suit, the posture, it all pointed to someone who knew exactly what message he was sending. He wasn't a child anymore. He was, for the first time, visibly projecting confidence. What makes all of this more compelling is the emotional psychology behind it. Barron wasn't just raised in the limelight, he was managed in the shadows. From early on, Melania Trump was clear. She wanted her son shielded from the chaos surrounding the presidency. She made choices, sometimes controversial, to keep Barron out of photo ops, public interviews, and press tour. The result? A child who learned how to observe rather than perform, someone who watched from a distance and learned when to step in and when to disappear. Even now, Barron doesn't post on public social media. He's never been in a viral TikTok. He hasn't tweeted a single word. His entire generation lives online, but Barron lives in the gaps, and yet people still talk about him. They share sightings, whisper stories, post anonymous interactions. Somehow, without saying a word, he's still the center of attention. According to the classmate who spoke out earlier, Barron's power came from exactly that, his quiet refusal to compete. He never needed to prove anything. That's what made him interesting. He didn't try to be mysterious, he just was. In a culture obsessed with visibility, Barron built his own kind of presence, unspoken, intentional, and deeply self-aware. That kind of restraint is rare. That kind of control is learned. So far, Barron has shown that he doesn't need to be in politics to